This week, Jennifer Lopez falls in love with the one man she shouldn't in The Wedding Planner.
Mina Savari and her cheerleading squad rob a bank in Sugar and Spice.
And John Malkovich tries to manage temperamental star Willem Dafoe in Shadow of the Vampire.
My mother put me in ballroom classes when I was 8 years old, and she wanted me to be Fred Astaire, you know. I wanted to be Marcus Welby.
So now you're a little bit of both?
Jennifer Lopez finally meets Mr. Right, but he's already taken in The Wedding Planner, one of 5 new movies we're going to be reviewing this week. I'm Roger Ebert, film critic for the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Richard Roeper, columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times. In The Wedding Planner, Jennifer Lopez has the Sandra Bullock role as Mary, who plans weddings as if they're the MTV Awards. Months of preparation, elaborate set designs, and even a team of headset-wearing assistants on the big day. But the lonely and heartbroken Mary can't get a date. So her nights are spent playing Scrabble with old people and watching TV alone. Apparently this movie takes place on the planet Yeah Right. Then one day, Mary's luck seems to change.
Oh, my God. Oh, my new Gucci shoe. Come on.
That's Matthew McConaughey as Dr. Steve meeting Mary in a way that was probably fresh right around the time movies introduced the concept of sound.
You saved my show.
Even clunkier is the moment when Mary finds out the truth about her dream guy.
Eddie, come here. I want you to meet the wedding planner. The 2 most important people in my life set eyes on one another. Eddie, this is Mary, the wedding planner. Mary, this is my fiancé, Eddie. Mary, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The sitcom setups are punched home with pratfall comedy as when Mary and Dr. Steve window shop for statues for his wedding reception.
Now, Mary, I think you're wrong. He's not menacing. He's masculine. He's the protector. This man is strong.
Naked.
This man is sturdy.
The Wedding Planner pretends the audience has never seen a romantic comedy before, or for that matter, an old episode of Love American Style. The jokes are stale, the physical comedy falls flat, and the idea of the laid-back Matthew McConaughey as a skilled pediatrician is ludicrous. Now, Jennifer Lopez does have a lot of charm, but she's probably not the best choice for light farce, though I don't think there's an actress in the world who could have rescued this musty and dusty story.
I'm with you on this one. You know, I think Jennifer Lopez does a good job of seeming to be in love with Matthew McConaughey, but his mind seemed to be elsewhere, as if he were, I don't know, focusing on looking a little bit morose and, as you say, laid back. And if there's a scene that I never expected to see in a romantic comedy and hope never to see again, it's the one where he inadvertently gets the statue's genitals attached to his hand with super glue, and she tries to remove them with carbon tetrachloride that she carries in her purse.
And he gives it to her as a keepsake of the moment, and she says thank you, and puts it in her purse.
And that's as close as she's going to get to getting that kind of a gift from him in this movie. But apart from that, I'm telling you, nothing seemed to work, including the gimmick of the other fiancé from Italy. Every time he came on the screen, he seemed exactly like a guy who was hired at some kind of an amateur night.
There's a scene where 2 guys are on a scooter, and it says just married, and one of them is wearing a helmet that's got a wedding veil on it, and they go through a gay pride parade, and it's such a labored setup to get there, and it's just another groan-inducing moment in a really bad movie.
It's a shame for Jennifer Lopez, who, as she demonstrated in The Cell, one of my favorite pictures of last year, is terrific. Our next movie is a charming and offbeat Australian film named Amy, that manages to place a sweet story in a surprisingly tough setting. The movie stars that wonderful actress Rachel Griffiths as the widow of a rock star. She has very little money and has to move to a poor neighborhood in Melbourne with her 8-year-old daughter, Amy. The little girl saw her dad electrocuted on stage during a concert 3 years ago and hasn't spoken since. She also seems to be deaf.
Hey, look. What's it say?
Can't hear you.
Yeah. Cool.
The street is populated by a mixed bag of weird characters, and one of them is a musician played by Ben Mendelsohn. He makes a discovery. Amy may not be able to hear words, but she can hear music.
Do you want to come and play? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Rachel Griffiths is always good, but notice here how she creates a character who has developed a toughness to deal with the world and yet learns from a daughter who's even more scarred than she is.
I'm Donald Urquhart.
I'm not interested.
I'm a psychologist. I specialize in children. I only work for the education department for a couple of days a week.
Well, I've wasted enough time here already.
Oh, sure, but maybe I can help.
Let me ask you one thing.
Of course.
Do you think it's possible for someone who doesn't talk to sing?
I once treated a woman that couldn't walk, but she could dance.
Amy was directed by Nadia Tass, who takes materials that could have made a corny children's movie and transmutes them into an original and touching character study. I also like the tenderness and off-kilter balance of Mendelssohn's performance and the strangeness of his sister, played by Susie Porter, who's always ranting about her war with her hairdresser. Amy is touching and surprising and not at all what you might expect.
Well, there are some extraordinary scenes, and I think there may be one or two many eccentric characters on that block. I liked the movie a lot, but I'll tell you where it lost me. It was the third time that the little girl, Amy, goes missing, and they have to start searching for her again. The third time. It's one thing for her to go missing once, maybe twice, but the third time they're out searching for her, I'm thinking, you know what? They didn't know quite what to do. Once they discovered the amazing secret, and there are great scenes, that she'll only respond to song and that she'll sing herself, I don't know if they knew what to do with the story from that point on, so it just dragged for me. And the third time I thought, well, maybe she's not the greatest mother in the world, this character of Rachel Griffiths plays, because she can't keep track of her own kid.
Well, it's not her fault that the babysitter's husband comes to call.
She leaves her child with maybe the worst family in the world to be looking after her kid, so it is her fault.
She has to support herself as a waitress. She doesn't have very much money. She's
Sure.
kind of limited to the people on that street, etc. But still, you might have a point, and yet I wouldn't have given up that last scene because the sight of those cops walking through the forest preserve, singing to a girl who can't hear spoken words. You know, sometimes you're just grateful that a movie shows you something.
It's an admittedly beautiful scene, that one and many others. And the little girl also sings like the kid from Annie, and that was a little bit too much for me. Okay, coming up later in the show, Willem Dafoe has a mesmerizing effect on his co-stars in Shadow of the Vampire.
Did I kill some of your people, Murnau? I can't remember.
And coming up next, Mina Suvari turns her squad of cheerleaders into a gang of bank robbers in Sugar and Spice.
Are you robbing the supermarket or the bank branch?
Oh my God, this is harder than I thought.
Today we're going to cheer loud, jump high, and look pretty. Because cheerleaders kick! Now let's get going, because no one ever got ahead by sitting on their behinds.
Those perky cheerleaders are about to get slam dunked by reality in Sugar and Spice, a slightly dark high school comedy. It's kind of like a Heather's Light. James Marsden from X-Men is Jack, the dim-witted homecoming king, and Marley Shelton is Diane, who's all smiles and perfect dismounts as his cheerleader captain girlfriend. But senior year is about to get really complicated when she becomes pregnant, and they take crummy jobs, and they have to move into a cheap apartment. Diane tells her fellow cheerleaders that she's got to find a way to get some fast cash.
We're like sisters. We're closer than sisters, and you don't turn your back on family. Come on, Luce. People do it in the movies all the time, and they get caught. That's right. So all we have to do is watch a bunch of movies and learn from their mistakes. Wow. Come on, Luce, come on.
Yes, we're all in this together. But we have to make a smart plan.
The script is loaded with pop culture references. Sometimes these girls talk as if they're quintuplets spawned by Dennis Miller.
Be careful, have fun. Ski masks are so done. Wear these masks to fight the power and never bend over in the shower.
Hey, Diane, you can be mood swing Betty. Hannah, you're virgin Betty with optional horse and saddle.
And Fern, you can be... Oh, God, we forgot Fern.
Oh, it's okay. My mom and the girls just got him for the heist. It's nothing personal.
Hey, I got to cheer with you guys. I'm happier than a Make-A-Wish kid at Disneyland.
Sugar and Spice is a bouncy cartoon of a satire. They could have called it We're No Reservoir Dogs, with plenty of wink-at-the-camera touches, like the casting of Sean Young as a convict and Mina Suvari kind of doing a variation on the temptress cheerleader she played in American Beauty. One cheerleader even has a major obsession with Conan O'Brien, if you can believe it, who actually plays along with the gag. And so I thought Sugar and Spice had a real chance to be a fun little sleeper, but for me it fizzled out with 1 or 5 too many passing gas jokes and a lame twist ending. So I'm giving it a pat on the back, but thumbs down.
Oh, I love this movie. I'm giving it a thumbs up. I thought it was really funny, and one of the things I was so grateful for is that at last we have a high school movie, even including a prom at the end, where the people are allowed to be smart and funny and wicked and sassy and colorful and not dumb and not linked into a formula. And I love the way these girls talk to each other, the way they relate to each other. I liked everything about it.
You really did. I'm surprised you liked
this
it
movie
this
a
much.
lot.
Well, they're going to be quoting you on this one, buddy boy. Let me tell you.
I hope they do, because this movie is a refreshing change.
There are some funny things in here, but like I said, just a little bit at the end, and the little twist ending was really kind of labored and mannered. So, I mean, I was really close. I was really close on Sugar and Spice, but I can't
If a movie gives you an hour and a half of enjoyment, who cares about the last 3 minutes, unless it's...
Well, it's more than just the last 3 minutes.
Well,
it's more like the last half hour.
Yeah, well, not exactly. But anyway, I liked it. Okay, coming up next, Willem Dafoe plays an actor who plays a vampire who is a vampire in Shadow of the Vampire.
This is hardly your picture any longer.
It's a book about vampires. Ah, yes. Now you remember. It was put there last night by the superstitious peasants, the ones who warned you not to enter Orlok's castle.
John Malkovich stars in Shadow of the Vampire. They're playing F.W. Murnau, one of the greatest directors of the silent screen. One of Murnau's masterpieces was Nosferatu, the first of the vampire movies. It was based on Bram Stoker's Dracula, but they changed the name because they didn't want to pay for the rights. So they called the vampire Count Orlok, and he was played in that movie by a strange actor named Max Schreck, who created a profoundly creepy performance. Shadow of the Vampire tells the story of the making of Nosferatu, and Willem Dafoe plays Max Schreck.
I wish you could all see your faces. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Max Schreck, who will be portraying our vampire, Count Orlok. As you no doubt have heard, Max's methods are somewhat unconventional, but I am sure you will come to respect his artistry in this matter.
Schreck has a secret shared by Murnau. The reason his performance is so convincing is that he really is a vampire.
Why him, you monster? Why not the script girl? The script girl. I'll eat her later. No, you will not. Our bargain. You agreed not to hurt my people.
Shadow of the Vampire contains mordant humor as well as backstage movie lore and, of course, an underlying horror story. It's a lot to get into one film, and sometimes the progress seems a little uneven, but Dafoe is amazing as Max Schreck. Look here at this comparison. On the left is the real Max Schreck in Nosferatu, and on the right is Willem Dafoe, who somehow embodies not only the technical side of Schreck's performance, but also his bizarre and unwholesome aura.
This is hardly your picture any longer.
Malkovich is wonderfully dry and mannered and self-centered as Murnau, and Catherine McCormick is the leading lady who doesn't know the vampire will be paid with her blood. Shadow of the Vampire is great entertainment for anyone who loves old movies.
Yeah, I thought it was sort of like the state and Maine of the silent era, because you get to see how they make movies. And Dafoe is amazing. I can only hope when he shows up to get the Oscar that I think he's going to win that he'll still be in that character, because that would just be perfect. He should just walk around like that for the rest of his life. Malkovich is really good here as well, and it's so much fun to listen to him give direction to these actors, because, of course, it's a silent movie, so he can keep speaking to them as they're going, you're very scared now. He's doing all these things. It's just a lot of fun, a lot of great spirit to it, and some chilling moments.
You know, it's amazing to think that there have been dozens, if not hundreds, of vampire movies since Nosferatu, and no one has ever created a vampire like this, better than Murnau and Schreck. The closest was Klaus Kinski in Werner Herzog's remake about 20 years ago. This is like the definitive vampire, and it's an act of homage by Willem Dafoe.
Method acting at its best. Okay, our next movie is Taboo, certainly the only 19th century homosexual samurai soap opera I've ever seen. This is the first feature in 14 years from Nagisa Oshima, who became an art house darling in the West with such films as In the Realm of the Senses and Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. This time, his oddball touch gives us an androgynous, youthful samurai named Kano who joins an elite militia in 1865 and arouses much passion within the rank and file and much gossiping among his superiors.
あれですか? 町人です。
患者ではあるまいな。
師匠の押小路高倉に強いる新義王流浜野千左衛門のおががあります。
Whether he's executing a fellow samurai for breaking one of their many rules of honor or cheating on his lover with yet another warrior, Kano is strangely emotionless.
私は君を抱いて明けのカラスを一声でも聞けば寿命が縮まっても構わん。
Under the samurai code, if you talk about your work or borrow money or fight for personal reasons, you'll be executed. But apparently it's okay for these guys to roll around every night while their supervisors gossip endlessly about it or engage in some romantic same-sex pinings of their own. Now, there are moments in Taboo that are breathtakingly beautiful, especially the final dreamlike battle between two lovers turned rivals. But the endless declarations of love and or lust are borderline laughable, and there's an underlying creepiness about all these men salivating after one teenage boy. Taboo is dressed up as an art film, but this is nothing but sleazy melodrama.
Oh, you know, I don't think it's an entirely successful film, but I do recommend it, and I don't think it's sleazy melodrama. I think that it zeroes in on something kind of interesting, which is that most of the samurai armies did have homosexuality as part of their makeup since they lived in an all-male society and were loyal only to each other. It's like the Greek armies of 2,000 years earlier. And whether they're salivating over this guy or not is not such a mystery because he really is pretty good looking. I mean, now let's admit it, Richard. I mean, to them, what do you think?
Well, yeah, but here's the thing, too.
I mean, he's obviously a sex object, and that's why they recruit him into the samurai army in the first place.
But there's something, I still say it's creepy. At the beginning, they ask him if he's 18, and he says he is, and they all know he's not really 18. So what we're talking about, if this were a 15-year-old girl these guys were lusting after, everybody would think it was creepy.
No, they wouldn't in the 19th century in Japan.
Well,
see, this is
the
a movie about, well, the audience then would have to learn that in the 19th century in Japan, things aren't the way they weren't the way they are now. This is a movie about that time, that place, those customs, those people.
That's fine, but beyond that, Roger, I think it's just a silly story with all these men. I love you, I love you. Why? We don't see any reason why one guy loves another.
It's not love. It's known as lust.
Well, they keep saying love in the movie.
Yeah, but that's just because the subtitles are bad. When we come back, Billy Crudup is a mysterious drifter in my video pick of the week.
Ebert and Roeper's Video Pick of the Week is brought to you by Nestle Raisinets. Try Raisinets in new, convenient, resealable bags.
One of the best performances of last year was in a movie named Jesus' Son, and if you missed it, now you can catch up with it on video. Billy Crudup plays an aimless guy drifting through life in Iowa City who is not the son of Jesus, but like all of us, he's a son of God, and although he gets into drugs, he's not a bad man. Along the way, he runs into a woman played by Samantha Morton, and they fall in love as much as two druggies can.
We stayed in that place for a week. We made love in the bed, ate steaks at the restaurant. We fought, cried, begged of one another, forgave, promised, and carried one another to heaven.
Dennis Leary co-stars as a man who asks Crudup to help him steal some wiring out of a house and then reveals one interesting detail about that house.
Hey! Who owns these houses, do you think? This is my house. It is?
Jesus' Son was directed by an Australian woman named Alison McLean, and like Nadia Tass of Amy, she loves unconventional characters and unexpected developments. This movie starts out looking a lot like a drug movie, but by the end, the hero is entranced by the songs of a Mennonite woman, and along the way, he gets a job editing the newsletter at an old folks' home. Jesus' Son is new on tape and DVD, and it's my video pick of the week.
Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this week's show. 2 thumbs down for The Wedding Planner, a clunky comedy. We split on Amy. Roger liked its offbeat story, but I wasn't quite convinced. It opens next week in L.A. and New York. Another split on Sugar and Spice. I thought it fizzled out, but Roger liked the sassy teenagers. But 2 thumbs up for Shadow of the Vampire and Willem Dafoe's amazing performance. And finally, we split on Taboo. I thought it was a creepy soap opera, but Roger liked its portrait of a period. So the real disaster in this group is The Wedding Planner.
Yeah, and Shadow of a Vampire, Academy Award stuff from Willem Dafoe. And come on now, on Sugar and Spice, if you like Coyote Ugly and Bring It On, which I voted thumbs down for, how come you can't like this?
It's close. Sugar and Spice is almost as good as Bring It On.
Almost close. Okay, remember you can hear our reviews at Ebert-Roeper-movies.com and read us in print at suntimes.com. And next week, more new movies, including The $1 Million Hotel, starring Mel Gibson.
I know there's a killer. I know it's one of you. And whoever it is, I'm gonna get you.
And also, Head Over Heels, a new romantic comedy starring Freddie Prinze Jr.
I mean, come on, he's way too cute to be a killer.
Amanda?
Jim!
That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.